I wanted basically to add. I think let's look. I want to ask you guys why you think he's keeps repeating himself and like using these data points to state the obvious. For me, his intention is to say like, look, we're white. Yeah, we and like join like the white card and look at all these data points with pretty colors on it. They show that we're white. And I mean, personally, I believe that white is an Anglo copyright, very much like the West is. And, you know, they use it for politically expedient reasons. And I think one of the things that's kind of happening is I think they're kind of baiting Hispanics with the white card, and Hispanics aren't biting. And then I think the Anglos are looking for troops. And I think, you know, in the case of markets, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like let's get the Poles to fill the ranks of whiteness now and have them, you know, be cannon fodder on the front lines for things that they never did. Like first off, they're Catholic. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think to me, it's an effort to rally the troops. I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, that's a fact. Like, if you go back to the 60s, right? Like, up until then, Eastern Europeans, Italians, they were always that other, right? Maybe white on paper on the census, but then again, you know, like Arabs and even Sikhs tried to become white on the census. It doesn't mean anything. It's a piece of paper. I think the Sikh lost, the Arabs won, the Jews were always white. I mean, I think Somalians were white at some point.
Yeah.
But no, and then when integration started happening, you had, say, George Lincoln Rockwell. He went into, like, he had no success. I mean, he was a clown. But he went into Chicago where there was huge Eastern European immigrant communities, and he started trying to rally them. It's like suddenly now these people are becoming white, right? Because you know, the Anglo reactionary needed more foot soldiers because there just weren't enough Anglos left, right? They were weak. They're cucks. They're just, you know, I mean, they're dying people, and so they need. Now you're seeing with Hispanics, they're trying to recruit the Hispanics. They're trying to recruit the. I mean, they're even recruiting, like, say, people that are a quarter black or half black at this point.
Right. Well, like Andy, it's like the vampire needs fresh blood.
Listen, I just like what you said, Rancho. Like the patent, the copyright of white, and who holds the keys. It's like whiteness is mediated through Anglo specifically, but maybe a little bit more broader northwestern European, maybe, you know, France, Germany, maybe Scandinavia a little bit.
Northwest.
But it's like, as a Southern European, as a Mediterranean, your whiteness is always suspect. In other words, and you know, all the pygmies in the audience, everybody, think about this, and you know it's true. You're always having to prove how much like a German you are, or how much in common you have with Germany, or how much in common you have with France, or how much in common you have with England or Scandinavia or the Vikings or whatever. You're always having to do that. You never see a German person or a Norwegian person having to explain to you how much like a Southern European they are. You know, it's like, oh, you know, I'm late all the time everywhere. I'm just like, we're just like brothers. You know, I'm super relaxed. Like, they never do that. You're always the one that has to prove yourself to them. They never have to prove themselves to you. They never have to adopt any of the let's say archetypical things of Southern Europeans or of Slavs. Maybe it's always us that we have to go like, did you know that Charles V was German? Did you know that Spain has a lot in common with Germany? Did you know that you know, the Vikings arrived in Italy? It's always us that have to prove that we are. Why? Because whiteness comes from the north to south. You know, when you think of a white person, what do you think? You don't think black hair and brown eyes, because a lot of non-white people have black hair and brown eyes. You think about blonde hair, even though it's true that, you know, there's blonde people in other places, but I'm talking about the stereotype. It's the blonde person with pale skin with blue eyes. That's what a stereotypical, like, that's as white as you can get, right? You don't get whiter by going south. You get whiter by going north. So whenever you want to like stick yourself to this identity, like look at a map, look at where it goes, from where it flows to where, like who defines the characteristics and the terms.
To perfectly illustrate what Dennis is saying, this is a tweet from Varg. If you don't know who Varg is, he's the guy that from the metal band Bursum, and he was pretty significant on YouTube before he got banned. He's a Nordicist. He's from Norway as well. And here's what he says, quote, "This Turkish Muslim is my brother in blood. We come from the same roots. I would sacrifice my life to defend his, but I would not even sacrifice a single thought to help any of the quote-unquote South European Christians in my last tweet. They are completely alien to me." And for those who are just listening, it's a Turkish guy who, yeah, I mean, he kind of looks, like a stereotypical Viking kind of guy. But, I guess the question would be, would that guy sacrifice his life for Varg? And the question is probably not, because he's Turkish, and Turks are very, very, ethnocentric. They're not racially centric. They're ethnocentric.
There's so many different. So basically, Gandalf don't claim you.
Gandalf don't claim you. Uncle Varg don't claim you. I mean, yeah, it's like, just, what is a white person? Like a blonde, like that guy is unequivocally white. Southern Europeans, Mediterranean people are suspect white. They're always having to, and look at how much, like, you always have to be renouncing part of your heritage. You always have to be denouncing part of your history. It's like, but weren't you guys, like, you're from Sicily? Wasn't your island occupied by Tunisia for thousands of years, for hundreds of years? No, man, like, no. Okay, yeah, the island did, but my family stayed pure, man. Like, I swear, like, no more came near my wife, near my mom. No more came near my grandmother. It's like, you're always like, Nords never have to do that. I've never seen a Northern European having to explain his ancestry, like explain blemishes in his ancestry. Is like, yeah, I'm actually not descended from that person. Like, I know. No.
Even Finns don't have to do that, and they have like considerable like admixture from like Asian places too.
Even they don't have to do it. It's always us. It's always us that if we want to get into the club, we're always having to renounce the Moors, explain how it's just a myth. Like, no more ever touch a Spanish woman. Like, that never happened ever. No mixing there. No, it never happened. Italians the same. They don't have to do it. Like, it's their copyright. It's their trademark. Why do you want to, like, who are they kidding? Trying to pretend like we're just like one big group and we're all just one big people. And the other thing is that like, again, historically, it's not true that the Europeans saw themselves as one big group outside of maybe Catholicism, outside of maybe Christianity. That's the closest you get to like a European, pan-European identity. But it's like they want to pretend, like people like Jared Taylor want to pretend like there's no open grievances still, like there's no political conflicts, there's no political interest, like where it's like Hispanics and the Hispanic civilization, including Spain, has no conflicts, no problems with England, or England still occupies, like Las
Malvinas.
No, Las Malvinas. No, in Europe. Oh my God, what are the name of the
Gibraltar?
Yeah, Gibraltar. And they want to pretend like, oh no, yeah, like just put it behind you. Just put it behind you. We're one big group now. Because they're in trouble now. It's like they're not doing so well right now, and so it's like no, forget about all those problems. Forget about all those differences, all those different claims. Forget about any, like, this is why people like Jared Taylor want to reduce it to race, because it's like the minimum thing in common. Everything else is different. Like, he can't people like Jared Taylor and white nationalists can't go just a tiny bit above race, because then it all falls down, because philosophically it's different, theologically the outlook is completely different, everything else is different. So it's like you got to look at, like, almost like the atomic structure of Europeans. It's like we share the same atoms, bro. So we're the same. And at that point, it's just like, you might as well just say, like, oh, all human beings, one race, the human race. When you look at it so fine grained.
Excellent point. To me, this whole concept of white race or black race is like pre-globalism, right? Like all these fringe guys on the right talk about like, oh, mestizaje and like what the Spanish Empire did was like globalism, bro. So you're saying globalism. Me saying embrace our mestizaje, right? Embrace our ethnogenesis of 500 years means, oh, so you're promoting race mixing and globalism. I'm sorry, I just forgot my point.
Let me just
doesn't
add
matter what's
to
based.
No. Hold on. I remember. My point is that this whole notion of white or black race is like the baby step before that. So it's like I'm going to take 32 flavors of Europe and I'm going to just turn it into vanilla. And then I'm going to take, 64 flavors of Africa and I'm going to turn it into chocolate. And then I'm going to take Latin America and call it brown. And, we got caramel. And then, the yellows and the South Indians. So there'll be like 5 core flavors of ice cream. And then what's the next step? Well, then let's just create one mush of ice cream. Like that which they're denouncing is what white identity and black identity are. It's a baby step. You're converting all these differences of these continents into a monolithic thing, which by coincidence, the people who define it happen to be the Anglos. Whether they be white or black, they get to define what white or black is.
Or Jewish.
They're all Jewish.
Which is white. Yeah. I mean, it's what you were saying about the data. It's like, okay, so like Jared Taylor is choosing to present the data about human differences like this, but then you could go like, okay, but don't we share like 100% of our DNA? So it's like one race, the human race. There you go. There it is.
Yeah.
There's no difference.
Don't we share a bunch of DNA with a banana? Like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you zoom in so much, there's no like we're all atoms, dude. Like at the end, we're just electrons and protons, spinning around. But they can't go above that level. They can't. This is why they have the autistic fixation with genetic charts and irrelevant stuff. Because they cannot rise above it. Because you take one step above genetics, and ethnicity just completely destroys all their ideas of race.